Fire away.
How do you just feel about finally making your debut in a game for the Vikings with all this anticipation and everything building up over the last week?
Obviously, we're excited. Training camp can drag on too. We're on our 10th practice. We came here early, so 11th or 12th now, and by now you're ready to change scenery and go play against a different defense. I think schematically, we get too familiar with this defense where we're getting the same looks. We understand it. They know all of our stuff, and it's time to change the script up a little bit and get ready for something different. So that's also a huge benefit. And dealing with noise, road environment, substitutions from the sideline, game situations that are constantly changing, not working off a script anymore. All of that is very different from a practice setting, and we need that work.
Have you been able to tell the past Kirk from the preseason and have it translated into the regular season? Is it just always a work in progress? Do you gel a lot with preseason?
Well, you certainly want to put a good product on the field anytime you step out there. Obviously, it's a small sample size to go off of, and so when it's all you have to look at, especially when you're on the outside, it appears to be very telling as to how the team is doing and how they look for the year. Looking back on my preseasons personally, I don't know that it's been a very good indicator of how the season plays out. I know in 2016 we really didn't get our offense going and then almost threw for 5,000 yards during the regular season. So that would be a time where it wasn't a great indicator. But, um, I think it's important to get out there, have a good taste in our mouths, leaving the game. And when you only get a handful of snaps, if you don't start fast, you don't finish strong. You have to, come out the gates ready to go. Otherwise, your opportunity's gone and you don't really have time to ease in. Well, you just had seen the numbers or the lack of production in the first couple of seasons, but I get out here and I see a guy who comes to work every day, who knows the plays, knows the system, has a good sense for the game, has made aggressive, tough catches, and has run a variety of routes and really shown up on all of them. And um, schematically, he's getting the football a lot. I think he keeps showing up. I'm just going where my reads are taking me. Really always have played that way. I don't do a lot about, well, I'm going to throw to this guy because he's a better player. I just go where my reads take me, and he keeps getting the football. So I think he's had a great camp, and the goal is not to just have a great camp. The goal is to turn it into an outstanding season, and so we've got to make sure that he keeps what he's been doing. He keeps doing it all the way through this fall. I haven't even talked about it with him, so that's the kind of thing that as we get closer to Saturday night, we need to start to address. Sean McVay in 15 was on the sidelines. In 16, he was in the box. In 17, Jay called the game for me from the sideline. So Kyle Shanahan always called it from the sideline when I was with him. So my experience has been both. I think that the box gives you not only a better vantage point, but a little more sterile environment. So the play call, the voice is coming in from a sterile environment, which can be more of a calmer setting. Not a lot of crowd noise or static coming in the microphone. The advantage to the sideline is the communication. We can be on the same page. So there's pros and cons to both, and you have to kind of give something up to gain something else.
What are the challenges, Kirk, for you to have restarting offensive line on Saturday and what might have possibly changed?
It is a challenge. I played with a depleted offensive line a little bit last year, and it's certainly not preferred. Um, Much of the offensive line play is like quarterback, where you have players who down the road are going to be good players, but they may not be there yet. And so it takes time, it takes reps, it takes these preseason games. We got to throw them in the fire and get them worked so that they can take those next steps. Um, and I see it as a great challenge for me as a quarterback to say, I look around the league at some of the all-time greats who are playing right now, and they've had a revolving door at offensive line, and it really never caused a drop in their play. So if I ever want to be mentioned among those guys, I've got to be able to play regardless of who's in front of me, and so I'll take pride in that. Hopefully, still being able to produce at a high level regardless of who's out there. Yeah, and that's where you always want a great play caller who can look at your personnel and then say, okay, schematically, what can we do to accentuate our strengths and hide our weaknesses? And one of the ways you can protect yourself against an elite pass rush is to create, rollouts, create movements where, the Von Millers of the world don't know that you're going to be setting up every single time in the exact same spot. So whatever we can do, and not only launch points, but snap counts and other ways that you can keep those guys guessing as they rush the quarterback so that it's not an easy tell play in and play out.
Can I ask you, going back to late February, early March, were you surprised at all that the Vikings were a potential landing spot, given that they had Case Keenum, who you'll see on Saturday, win 13 games in a playoff game here?
I was just keeping an open mind. I've learned never to be expectant of much in this league because things do change so quickly. Um, so I was just keeping an open mind, and whoever was interested in me, I would be interested in them. And I'm obviously looking back, very grateful that the Vikings came into play and made a call. So we rolled with it from there, and we're thrilled to be here. I think the workload has always been about the same. I want it to be as much as possible. The nature of the quarterback position is that you're not running a lot. You're not wearing yourself out physically. Certainly, it can be a mental grind, but I want as many reps as I can get. And sometimes when we're going through a period, I'll look back and hope that they're not going to sub me out quite yet because I want to keep getting reps and getting experience. So that's important, and I'll get as many reps as I can get. I think he's done a really good job. Another guy who maybe hasn't played a lot of football in this league, but has been around the block long enough to know what it should look like. And I've really enjoyed working with him. I think he's got a good demeanor about him. He's a pro's pro, and I've enjoyed, getting to work with him from a center to quarterback standpoint. I mean, Delvin's an outstanding back. We've again going back to Coach Flippin's scheme. We're just trying to find the best ways to get him involved. What does he do well, and then how many other things outside of just a traditional running back can he do so that we can get the football in the hand of one of our best players in more unique ways, so that the defense can't plan for the same look over and over and over. So we've got to get creative with getting him involved. And maybe it's just calling a simple quick game and then checking it down to him over the ball. But as we've talked about, a check down to a running back isn't the worst thing in the world when that running back is Delvin. And he's proven that when the ball's in his hands, good things happen. So even if it's a check down, find a way to get him the ball and then let him go be a special player. It would be hard to narrow it down to one thing. Anytime you win 13 games and a playoff game, you're doing an outstanding job as a quarterback. But I've watched Case going back to his days in Houston, running Coach Kubiak's offense. Watching him in L.A. He won that job in training camp, and then here he's just a winner. I mean, going back to Houston, what he did for that program and the records he set. You don't do that at multiple stops unless you've got something to you that's special that says you're an elite quarterback. But I just think the way he led, the way he is on top of the details, the way he makes great decisions, protects the football, makes plays. He's very good off schedule. I think there's a lot of positives to his game. He's a great personality, great teammate, a lot of fun to work with. Gives you good feedback. Loves playing, loves practicing, enjoys coming out here. Um, he loves fashion. He's kind of got his own look every day, got his own way of doing things, and I love him as a guy. I love him as a teammate, as a player.
Kirk, I got to ask on a different note. Tom Compton said that you two once got really into moon phases. How in the world did that come to be?
I'm wondering how in the world Tom acknowledged that to you. But, Tom and I have a weird sense of humor, and maybe we should put a hidden camera in. But we roomed together for 2 years, my first 2 years before I got married. And so, we developed our own little sense of humor, and it would be pretty hard to articulate how it goes. But a lot of riffs back and forth, I'll just say that. Adam Thielen's picked up on it, having a locker next to us. He hasn't really had a choice.
What's the
I just can't say enough good things about our quarterback room and Trevor as a player and as a person. I've said it several times, so I'm repeating myself. But when you've started that many games, been in the fire, that's a huge asset to have in your room, first of all. And then second of all, uh, just as a guy, I love his demeanor, whatever you want to call it. Laid back, go with the flow, calm, cool. It's just as good for me to have there, and I look forward to working with him all year. I really enjoy, whether it's the cafeteria or the quarterback meeting, I enjoy spending time with him. And with how much time we spend together, that's a really good thing.
Is there a sense with you and someone like Case Keenum, you guys went through some of the same experiences, kind of being an underdog and working your way up to this job? Do you have a camaraderie with the other quarterbacks who've gone through that type of thing?
I think there's a bit of an unspoken camaraderie among NFL quarterbacks in general because as you look at someone, you know that they've been where you are and they understand what it's like to practice and play and get hit and stand in there and come back, the next week. And not a lot of guys can do that. Not a lot of guys have done that. And so the ones that have, there's a bit of a bond there, whether you spend time together or not. But certainly, he's a guy. I think we're wired very similarly as people. And I have a great deal of respect for him and his wife, his family. And, I wish him a great deal of success going forward.
Last couple for Kirk. Coach Flip talked about the offense becoming a little bit more cohesive. Do you feel like the timing is starting to impress?
I think so. I think that's what training camp's all about. And over these last 10-ish practices, we've taken steps as an offense, and we have to continue to, fine tune as we get closer to week one about what are we going to emphasize, what are we going to install that's new, and then what are we going to go back and try to perfect that we've already installed. So those are conversations that Coach Flip and the staff and myself will have to have, just continuing to try to get an idea of what our identity is going to be and what we're going to hang our hat on. It's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is just their continuity. If I make a check, they make a check because they're all on the same page. One time in OTAs, and I believe you all were here this day, I saw they were bringing a pressure. I made a check to have an answer. Well, they then checked to get out of the pressure. So then I was left stuck with a play that's not very good versus their max zone coverage. And I went over to Coach Zim afterwards and I said, tell me a little bit about what is going on there. And he said, well, they're not supposed to do that. They were supposed to leave the play on, but they've been playing together for so long. They're so dialed in that even if the play clock's running down or even if you're getting your check out quickly, they know one hand signal, one word, and everybody knows what to do. I think that's the hard part because that's, when you have a brand new quarterback, brand new offensive coordinator, we can't say the same thing on offense. So the continuity, in addition to all the talent they have, I think helps them play at a high level. Yeah, I think what he's trying to say, if I'm discerning it correctly, is that this is a special place. It's a great locker room. It's well coached. Ownership is strong. It's got a great fan base. This is a great place to live. When you start to look at the key factors that would make it enjoyable to play for an NFL team, this place checks all the boxes. And I feel the same way. My wife feels the same way. And so the key, as I've said many times, is that's great. You can enjoy where you live. You can enjoy the fans. That's all well and good. You better win football games. And so that's where my focus is. And because we haven't done that yet, all of this is just preparation. It's just, we're just out here. It just looks like activity right now. We've got to turn it into wins in the fall. And that's certainly where our focus is each day we come out here.